Welcome to Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom on 100.7 The Word. I'm Jason Lupo with my co-host, Aaron Lujan.
Good morning, everybody.
And our guest host for this series, the devil laid the fiddle at his feet, the one, the only, James Fiddler.
The devil's not getting that fiddle back.
Oh, yeah.
No. Do you know how to play the fiddle yet?
Not even close.
You should probably learn.
Probably.
Amen.
Well, anyways, we've been on this series. We did take a brief break a couple times, but we're on this series of the unknown, the unnatural, the supernatural. It started with a conversation about demons, that our thought process of aliens is truly a demon. Then we had to take this a little bit further, and we had to talk about Nephilim and giants and
Tony Robbins.
well, now we're on zombies, and next week is Abrahamic falsehoods. And then are we done after that?
No.
Oh, what do we have after that?
Sounds like you want to be done.
I do find
Are we there yet?
the funny thing is like
Dad.
sometimes as you do this stuff, like number one, I can't thank James enough for his wealth of knowledge on these subjects.
Amen.
But it's not a passion of mine. And I teach biology. I said to my students the other day, I said, listen, these next two modules, I could really care less about. I've never cared about plants. I love plants. They're beautiful. They're part of God's creation.
That's mean.
But I don't really care how they work. And one of the students questioned me, and I said, well, let me ask you a question. Did you walk to school today? Well, no. I go, so how'd you get to school? Well, I drove. I said, do you care how your car works? And they're like, no, not really. I'm like, then there you have it. You accept the beauty of the car or the beauty of the flowers, but you care less how they work.
Sure.
But in the process, because it is not ingrained and entrenched in me, because I've never cared about flowers or plants, I don't have that knowledge stored deep down in my soul. The rest of biology I could teach without a book, right? Plants I cannot. So in the process of studying to be able to teach these two modules, I actually started falling in love with plants. Because I started to assign the value or the meaning behind why does this matter in the grand scheme of everything I do.
Now is Maggie
when
aware
we're
of this
talking about
plant love thing going on?
no.
Okay.
So, but we've in the grand scheme of everything I do, and we talk about the environment, we talk about carbon dioxide, everything else, climate change, all that other stuff, and you start to reassign importance of it. And so in the process of this, I started out with the same feeling, I could care less about all of this crap. It makes for a semi-decent movie occasionally, but that's about it. That's all they're good for. And now I've started, the Holy Spirit has gone, deep down inside me, and it's this topic matters for a reason. This topic matters because our kids see all of this represented in pictures and in video
Popular
and
culture.
in books
Sure.
and on TikTok
Sure.
all of the time.
everywhere.
And so it's about time that on a family radio show that we uncover some of the stuff for what it is. And we break the stereotype of it, of not talking about this from a biblical perspective, because, well, we have to. So
today,
zombies.
Today the church is going to talk about zombies, and we have our resident zombie expert in the building. Please take it away.
All right. So, zombies. Today we're going to be looking into what those are, what they are in real life, examining if that is at all similar to what it is in popular culture. So, Jason, what are your presumptions of what a zombie is?
They killed off all of my favorite characters on Walking Dead. That's all I know about zombies.
Oh,
what was on Walking Dead?
I'd like to answer that question. They scared me walking to my car in downtown LA at 3 a.m. Because they're everywhere.
Oh, that's when everybody was okay.
Are you talking about
that
tweakers?
I think it was the early onset, the fentanyl crisis.
No, it was before that. It was the fake the smelling salts.
Bath salts. Florida.
That's when people were eating each other and walking around and had no control of their bodies. It was bath salts.
Hashtag Florida man.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Bath salts is what I think about when I think about zombies.
So those are our answers. Are we near the biblical explanation of zombies?
Okay. So
I don't think we find zombies in the Bible.
No, we do not find zombies in the Bible. However, I've gone and I've searched the Bible for passages that talk about bringing people back from the dead which in the popular culture of what a zombie is it's a being that has been brought back from death and is now walking around in this sort of dead state, but is yet alive.
So they're kind of alive.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're kind of dead. I never really understood the zombie thing. But yeah, please.
Yeah, they're just like an undead being that's walking around. They were dead and now they are
I love where
alive
you're.
and
I
dead.
love where you're about to go with this. I'm just looking at the notes for the first time, and I love where this conversation is going to head. So, let's get there.
Let's go. So we'll start with the first time that zombies really entered popular idea. In the 1770s, people began to understand. So there's this concept called galvanism that was brought about by this guy named Luigi Galvani in 1780. And he ran some experiments, and this was around the time that people began to understand resuscitation after drowning, bringing people back from what they thought was death.
Clear.
Yeah. And in the 1780s, Luigi ran some experiments, and he found, quote, that by passing an electrical current from a lightning storm or an electrical machine through the nerves of a dead frog, the frog's legs could be made to kick and twitch. In 1791, he published an essay announcing his discovery that animal muscles and nerves contained an innate electrical force, which he dubbed animal electricity.
So we found that locomotion in the human body is triggered by electrical impulses through synapses. Got it.
Yep.
That, and I think I went to that rave in 2001, Animal Electricity. Downtown LA.
Right after you were done playing Animal Farm on the Nintendo Switch or whatever it is.
Exactly what I did after reading Animal Farm.
But this was the first time that the idea of death began to be played with. They maybe death isn't permanent. Several years later, Galvani's nephew, the physicist Giovanni Aldini, combined his uncle's discovery with those of Alessandro Volta, the inventor of the first electric battery, and he decided to create a series of dramatic experimentations and demonstrations around Europe. And his most known is when he took an electrical current to the corpse of a convicted felon, George Foster, who had been recently executed for drowning his wife and child. When he did the experiment, the body convulsed, and applying the current to the face caused the jaws to clench and the eyes to open. There's this image here, a political cartoon. Giovanni Aldini is raising someone from the dead and snatching him from demons. So that was the first time that the idea of undead person coming back to life was brought about. And I think that's where it entered our popular idea, the collective mind of society.
Did this precede Frankenstein? And you know how popular culture derived the Frankenstein story?
Yes, so that's actually where Mary Shelley got the idea for Frankenstein, was from Galvani.
Oh, so Galvani is the OG Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at some point, our depiction of zombies became not about necessarily electrical impulses, but rather about a virus. Like at some point, the trend in Hollywood and in science fiction culture attributed zombieism to a virus that may exist in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure that probably had something to do with just the history of plagues and diseases throughout mankind, wiping out large amounts of people. You know, the bubonic plague wiped out millions, and I think that probably has something to do with it. I don't know where that switch happened.
So now we go into hypnosis. So give us the lowdown of that.
Okay, so in the 1960s, around World War II, a little bit after, there were a lot of psychological experiments that were occurring. There's a very famous one done by the CIA called MKUltra. In an unclassified CIA document, there's a considerable amount of credible evidence that suggests that Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber,
Good old Ted.
yeah, participated in the CIA-sponsored MKUltra experiments conducted at Harvard. And
By the way, if you ever want to have your mind blown, read Kaczynski's writings. Wow.
Yeah.
Side issue. Please continue.
some of the patients of MKUltra had gone through these experiments and afterwards had killed themselves. So Dr. Frank Olson commits suicide in 1953.
Allegedly.
Is a U.S. Army civilian biochemist and biological weapons researcher. He jumped to his death from a hotel room in New York City after suffering a severe reaction to LSD that he consumed during the MK Ultra experiment. The research program was trying to determine the applications of these drugs and behavioral modification techniques.
So, in other words, we went from this idea of zombieism or bringing back to life through electrical currents to now that we have a living being that we are essentially attempting to brainwash into our own controllable zombie, which is kind of what the modern education system is attempting to do to our children. And then now we also have to... So I guess when we look at zombies, the question becomes... I think it's twofold or threefold, or there's a lot of questions. But the question becomes, I think, in many people's heads, can there ever exist a potential of a virus or some sort of disease that causes something similar to what is depicted on the television screens?
Right. So right now we're just going through and examining all the things that could possibly create a zombie. And the disease part, I don't think is very accurate. However, there are in the insect world, and this was depicted in that one show that recently came out that I did not watch, The Last of Us, I think was the show. But in the insect world, there are these funguses that can take control of insects. So there's this one, Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, that according to the National Institute of Health, quote, the infected ants display a directionless, constant locomotion activity that hampers foraging efforts. The wandering behavior could cause infected individuals to stray from the ant colony. So basically, this fungus goes and it infects the ant. It takes control of the ant's brain and causes it to leave the hive, the nest, the colony, before the other ants can detect that it's been infected. And then that fungus causes the ant to go up on a large, go up high into the trees, where it will die, and then the fungus sprouts out of the ant's head and disperses its spores.
So we do have in existence zombie ants.
Zombie ants, yes. And there's zombie beetles as well. The Massapora produces infective spores, and it keeps its cicada host alive and coerces them to transmit the infection to other cicadas. Now, these will consume the host, and it will rupture its abdomen to produce its spores, but it will keep the insect intact enough to remain active and continue to spread this. Basically, it's a disease. So that, in the insect world, is what we see in popular culture of what zombies do. They go out.
Essentially, what we're looking for is we're looking for a fungus or a virus or a bacterial infection that causes extreme confusion and or neurological symptoms.
Yeah, similar to what LSD was doing. Yeah. However, the great thing about it is that those funguses can only survive at temperatures up to 94 degrees. Now, Jason, as a biology man, what is the average temperature of a human being?
98.7.
They cannot survive in mammals. However, if they were to adapt to warmer temperatures
through gain-of-function research labs in Wuhan, China,
that or some other thing.
Wait. Sorry, gain-of-function research labs in Fort Collins, Colorado. Since we approved the lab,
fair enough.
There you go, right in our backyard.
But if they were to adapt to warmer temperatures, they would possibly be able to move on to mammalian hosts and spread the fungus that way.
So essentially, without the eating people portion, because, probably not going to happen, but extreme neurological impacts that's easily spreadable could be seen as zombification.
Yeah.
And we could easily probably create that in a lab somewhere with all the information that we have, gain of function research, and the wealth of a number of genomes, the Human Genome Project, and understanding where we need to attack the DNA to get these sort of responses.
Oh, church, if we only knew all of the wonders of suppressed biotechnology.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
yes.
I think, in my opinion, that these examples of zombies are rather far-fetched. I don't think that they would happen. But it's interesting to think about them if we wanted to go into something that, in my opinion, it's going to sound weird, but I think that supernatural zombies are more realistic than the idea of,
A naturally occurring
LSD and yeah, exactly.
Well, let's do this. Let's take a brief time out. When we come back, I want to ask a very pertinent question of Aaron and James when it comes to zombies. So hang with us, and we'll get back to this conversation in 30 seconds.
Full Armor Sports Teams has a new facility for after-school youth programs. It's located at 2380 Montebello near North Academy and Union with 2 pools for swim lessons and swim teams, a weight room for powerlifting, conditioning, and more. Full Armor Sports Teams is a Christ-centered and family-oriented organization bringing the youth of Colorado Springs together. For more info on after-school and homeschool programs, go to fullarmorsportsteams.com or call 719-629-SWIM.
Welcome back to Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom on 100.7 The Word. I'm Jason Lupo with my co-host, Aaron Lujan.
Good morning, sir.
And the devil left the fiddle at his feet, James Fiddler.
And he is not getting that fiddle back.
He's not getting that fiddle back. All right, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so we're going to rapid fire this questions really fast here. Why are Americans, and even the rest of the world right now, so hooked on zombies? Like, why do you think, Aaron?
Culture of death. I think people that are meditating on the things of this world are meditating on an antichrist culture, an antichrist system, and the opposite of life is death, and the things of death and the things of this world appeal to people who are in a spiritual state of death.
James, you want to take this?
I think since humanity has ever been existed, since we've been around, we've been fascinated with death. We've built mausoleums and tombs, and we have these graveyards. We build churches out of human remains. I just think that humanity is fascinated with their past, and part of that past includes death.
But why zombies? Why the undead? Why this specific topic? Like, I know we've gone from, like, the science fiction has changed drastically, right? From this idea of, like, what's in space, and you had Star Trek, and you had Star Wars, and you had E.T., and everything was about space. And now everything kind of moved to, we had the demon phase too, right? Everybody was trying to find demons in their house and blah, 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 and TLC had to run a show, and Discovery had to have 12 shows. And now we're on this idea of zombies. Like, zombies has taken over. Why zombies?
Well,
why the undead?
In addition to death being a great part of humanity's past and us being fascinated in that, the supernatural world is very much a real and frankly important part of the world, because the natural world, we don't realize it, is a part. The supernatural and the natural world are connected. And I think that's why we as a society are drawn to zombies and supernatural stuff. It's just because as a society, we are drawn to supernatural things because let's face it, our creation is supernatural. You know, God created us out of dirt. I would argue that that's a pretty supernatural thing.
In his image.
Yeah.
Aaron, why zombies? And where might we see this manifest in the spiritual realm through the flesh?
I think it's twofold. I think why zombies is because we are entering a time in history where zombie-like activities, zombie-like symptoms are going to be out in the open. You're going to have vaccines that are going to be administered to the general public that are going to manifest symptoms that are zombie-like behavior, and we are living amongst people that are fully possessed by demonic spirits that are manifesting zombie-like behavior. So I think we're conditioning the general public through popular culture to accept that this is going to be part of our future.
Oh, we're normalizing this.
We're normalizing zombie behavior because it's coming in the form of demonic possessions and vaccine damage.
That's pretty interesting. So
it's a reach, but I think there's some truth to it, so that's why I said it.
Aaron, let me ask this question of you, because you're a parent right now.
Allegedly.
I know that you're a parent.
Biologically, yes. I do my best. I don't know what I'm
two
doing.
Kids, they love you.
Thank you. I hope
And
so.
they respect you.
You are the father.
And I know his children, and they respect him greatly, so don't buy any of what comes out of Aaron's mouth.
Thank you, sir.
Where do you draw the line on what you allow inside your kids' heads? Do you allow them to watch zombie movies,
No.
Walking Dead,
No.
zombie shows?
No, not at all. I draw the line really early and really clearly. We meditate on things that are beautiful, things that are of God. We're not afraid to talk about sin and evil because we're not raising children in a vacuum, but we are not allowing our children to fill their heads with things that pain the Holy Spirit, things that grieve the Holy Spirit.
All right. James, closing thoughts, my friend.
We've gone over all the evidence I have, except for the biblical aspect of it. But
Brother, you put voodoo in your notes, but you didn't talk about the
we
voodoo.
didn't talk about voodoo. Voodoo zombies are real. They do exist. Those are the demonic world being used to raise people from the dead in a twisting of, God raising people from the dead.
I mean, but when we start talking about voodoo and some of the other stuff that exists, it starts with an invitation, right? Like you all heard a couple weeks ago, Aaron tell the story of the Ouija board and his experience in college.
Yeah.
There's an invitation that has to exist for these spirits to engulf you. It doesn't appear that anywhere do we see a spirit attacking a Christian, right? And it goes back biblically.
If you guard your heart by reading the word and by praying, they cannot touch you, because God is the greatest thing on this planet, in this universe, and nothing can touch you as long as you have God. Can I read this very sick Bible verse super fast?
Super fast.
Okay. So in Ezekiel 37, I just think this is sick, and it shows the power of God, and it has to do with, raising people from dead. The hand of the Lord was upon me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of the Lord, set me in the middle of a valley, and it was full of bones. He led me back and forth among them, and I saw a great many bones on the floor of this valley, bones that were very dry. He asked me, Son of man, can these bones live? I said, O sovereign Lord, you alone know. And he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and say to them, Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. And this is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones. I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you and make flesh come upon you and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will come to life, and then you will know that I am the Lord. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I was prophesying, there was a noise, a rattling sound, and the bones came together, bone to bone. I looked, and tendons and flesh appeared on them, and skin covered them, but there was no breath in them. Then he said, Prophecy to the breath, prophesy, Son of man, and say to it, This is what the sovereign Lord says. Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe into these slain that they may live. So I prophesied, and as he commanded me, and breath entered them, and they came to life and stood upon their feet, a vast army. And I just think that is an amazing thing, that there was this hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and God allowed Ezekiel through the power of Christ to bring forth the dead and bring them onto life. Nothing is impossible with God.
I didn't realize Ezekiel was that cool.
Ezekiel is a very cool book. People don't realize how cool the Bible is. There's so many awesome stories in there.
Amen.
All right. Well, this has been Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom on 100.7 The Word. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. And go find us online, faithfamilyfit.org. Have a blessed day. See you next Saturday.
Peace.